Thank you so much, Tom. I got to tell you guys something. Over the past couple of weeks, I've just been kind of pulled back into the reality of my situation, and I've been trying very hard to just keep my head above water, and nobody knows what it's like, um, to be extreme. It's like a lot of us are suffering. A lot of our family, the families that have been affected by this, we're all suffering from a form of PTSD. The Bundys, they never know when the government's going to come and start taking their cattle, and it's a great worry for them. All of their men who help run the ranch, Cliven Bundy himself, they're in prison, and they've left women and children behind. And I'm here without Pete. I tell the story to a couple of my close friends that we went to Burns for uh, a week at best. That was our plan. And before we left, it was Christmas, and I said Christmas was just over, and I told Pete, I said, you know what, I'm just going to leave these Christmas decorations up because um, we'll be back in a week, and that's usually when I take them down anyway. So, you know, when I came back home without him 2 months later, almost 2 months later, it was like I stepped into a time capsule, you know? I mean, the Christmas decorations were still up, and where he had opened up his ranger gear was still, on the dining room table. His reading glasses
Wow.
were still by the computer, and it was like
Having your best friend ripped from you.
yeah, and it was so empty, it was so lonely. So after 2 months of being in Burns, and knowing that the FBI was surveilling everything, no doubt they're surveilling this right now. You
Hmm.
know, uh, Having found out that I had been added to the terror watch list so that they could record all my phone conversations, and having police come to my door because the FBI had reported our rental vehicle, and you know, I know what a soldier feels like now when every noise that's made, every noise you hear, your eyes open and your heart starts pounding because you just don't know if, if it's them coming to get you. It really is terrorizing. I can't even begin to explain how terrorizing it is. So when I got home, um, I shut down a little bit. I just, I, I wanted to be in the apartment here, and I wanted to, I wanted to mourn a little bit,
Hmm.
and so I'm sorry.
No, that's
No, you're
okay.
fine. It sounds a lot like shock, like you're having your world shook a little bit.
Well,
Hmm.
sure. So, and then, I don't want to get into this conversation, but I just want to tell you guys how I feel about having people come after me. It is so heart wrenching because some days I just feel like, and I know all the other women. I've cried with them. I've talked to them, and we're all in the same boat. But having people that I thought were my friends come after me right now is just one of the most devastating things. And so, I want to apologize because I took a little time for myself. I didn't mean to be selfish, but I had to do it
Deb,
because,
Deb,
there is
you, you
there's a
do not,
breaking point that
Deb, you
everybody
don't
needs
owe
to.
anybody an apology. You do not owe anybody an explanation. Okay. I completely understand. I have, um, I've lost somebody in prison myself, and I understand when that happens. You do go through a mourning period. You go through you go through the whole same steps as you would if you are mourning the loss of somebody through death. You go through the anger, you go through the, the whole steps. Okay, I've been there. I understand completely. You do not owe anybody an apology for taking time for yourself to deal with this.
Well, I got to tell you something. When I sat there in the truck that night, the rig, as they call it in Oregon, um, and I was watching Pete, and he was talking to them. We were all standing up there around law enforcement, outside the sheriff's department that night on the 26th, and we had no clue at that point who had been killed, but we knew that somebody had been. The guy from ABC who Pete had become really close to and good friends with, he had told us that, you know, one man was killed and another one was wounded. And, so Pete went up to law enforcement like he had, you guys saw him on live stream, walks up to him. He had shook some of those guys' hands before and laughed with them. To watch them arrest him was so shocking. I can't even explain. It was like an out of body experience. It was like I couldn't even wrap my mind around what was happening right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't. And I knew then, that we were in big trouble, and to this day, I look at the video that a young man who was riding around with us, and he's a liberal, but well, not even a liberal. He's an anarchist. But Mike Bluehair was with us, and if you could have felt the atmosphere with me and Mike and Ben and Kenny, we were just in shock. We didn't even know what to say, and having them point AR-15s at us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, I didn't know whether we were all going to get arrested or I just still, I mean, I watched that video and I'm just still just thrown right back there. You can't even imagine what comes over you when something like this happens, and I hear a lot of people talking about what they would do and what they're going to do, and I'm here to tell you, you just never know until it actually happens to you. I I was pretty much that night back in the hotel room. I can tell you now, I didn't sleep for I didn't sleep for days. I mean, every noise. I was in Burns, and it was bad. It was really bad. People were just scared to death, and of course, then when we got the news that it was Lavoy that had been killed, I just cried. I cried and cried and cried, and so did a lot of other people. It was
We're,
devastating.
we're still crying over it. Believe me, it's still very raw and very. It's an open wound that I don't think will heal for quite a long time.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And so, when we have other people in alternative media, like David Knight, go after Pete so hard, and just be so callous and uncaring.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to say the only person that he wants to talk to are the Bundys, that nobody else matters. There are 40, how many families are out there? 40 families?
Mm-hmm.
I can't even keep track of them anymore. There's so many. There's so many. For him to call everybody else irrelevant, I can tell you right now, the Bundys sure don't feel that way. They don't feel like everybody else is irrelevant, and nobody else matters. It was shocking to hear him say that. It really was. It was shocking. And if he's not able to connect with the Bundys, it's not because anything Pete Santilli did or said. It's because of what they stand for. It's because of what InfoWars stands for. And I would have I would have no way of knowing why they won't speak to InfoWars, but um, I would say that it doesn't have very much to do with what Pete Santilli said. It has everything to do with them, you know.
Exactly. Wow.
No, it
Deb,
doesn't have anything to do with what Pete said. It has everything to do with probably their track record, because there are smaller fish that have gotten at Lavoy Finnecum's family and the
Mhm.
Bundys.
Sure.
There are very small, online outlets that have been able to speak with them and have them tell their story. So if David Knight really wanted to get to them, they could have diverted from one of the Trump rallies. And hey, they were just in Oregon, by the way. I mean, they
Sure.
were at a Trump rally in Oregon. They could have stopped over and tried to get an interview and or had done a report from out front of the courthouse or jail or something along those lines. So they've had ample opportunity. But I think that it's good that we need to illuminate things. I honestly, I know I don't want David Knight to go to jail, but
Of
for
course not.
because of Pete's circumstance and everyone else and what's at stake, I honestly, I'm going to say I would love if David Knight got indicted, because I know it'd be a game changer, and I know there'd be an infusion of cash and more media coverage, and it would probably bring out Breitbart, it would probably bring out Drudge, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden it would be the game changer that's needed.
Right. It's amazing to me. Uh, Breitbart was there in Burns, Oregon. What is his name? Brandon Darby was there. He stayed at the same hotel that we stayed at. And, I'm not a big fan of Brandon Darby's for obvious reasons. I don't know if you guys know who Brandon Darby is, but, not a big fan. But I got to tell you, he wrote some great material. But he actually spent the night or a couple of days down at the refuge overnight, ate with the people, and you know, no, nothing's ever been said about that. But Breitbart was there, yeah, and it wasn't just Breitbart; it was Brandon Darby himself came.
Deb, this is Lynx again. I just remembered something. Pete's, he had said a few times that his dream was to have an upside down pyramid.
Right.
And I want, if you can, let him know it's happening.
mhm,
I jumped on because of what happened to Pete. I helped a few others get on. Uh, Many other alternative media has been helping also. When he went down, I think at least five others jumped up, and then five more, and then five more. We're starting it. Let
Yeah.
him know
Exactly.
it's happening.
And I want you guys to know that I have told him that, and I said, people are springing up and putting out videos, and he goes, well, that's awesome, you know. He loves it, it's what he would want, and he does know, he is aware that you guys are doing that. He really is. He's also aware of some of the infighting and stuff that's going on, and I mean, I had people coming to me, saying this person was fighting with this person and this is happening and you need to be in there. And I just couldn't. I didn't have the strength to do it. I just couldn't. I I was fighting. I was fighting my own battles, and I just couldn't. I
You
just
didn't
couldn't.
have the time for it.
I knew that it would be the end of me. And I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it. It's taken everything that I have to concentrate and just to, sometimes just to get up and go through it all again, day after day after day. It's like living in a nightmare that never ends. That's what it's like, you know. And I know there's people out there that hate Pete, and obviously there's people out there who hate me. I didn't know that, so I know that now. You know, um, but I can't even begin to explain to you guys how it feels to wake up every single day and still feel like, you're in a dream that you can't get out of, you know. and all the stuff that comes at us every single day. It's just, I mean, I don't even
Like
have a
you're
word
trapped in
for
a
it.
Groundhog Day. You're trapped in a Groundhog Day. You just it's just the same thing every day when you wake up. I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself, and I'm very ashamed of the infighting, Deb. And I personally want to apologize to you, and I want to apologize to Pete if I have inadvertently hurt either one of you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, as a woman to woman, because I feel your pain. I know that feeling of waking up in the morning and having your loved one being behind bars and not being able to do anything about it. And like I said, I can't speak for anybody else, Deb, but I can only speak for myself, and I'm sorry.
There's really no reason to apologize. Jeremy knows this. Jeremy has been um, very good to me. Um, he's um, he's been a very patient and kind ear, uh, you know. But there's a, one of the reasons I wanted to, when I heard all of this stuff was happening and heard what some people were having to say about me and having to say about Pete, um, he can attest and tell you that I told him that I just didn't want to hear it. But I had a lot of people coming to me and telling me things that were being said and things that were being done, and I guess everybody felt like I abandoned them, and that really wasn't the case. I tried to tell everybody, that things had changed drastically. What Pete thought should have happened um, just wasn't feasible, and he came to realize that. I mean, there were a lot of uh, censor put on him and on me, um, in the beginning, and still a whole lot of it's there. I still can't talk about a lot of the things that I know, that pertain to his case, and I know that everybody wanted to know, but with all of the fighting that was going on and the pressure that I was under, and the pressure that you know to get information to the attorneys and to I mean, we're talking about a government that has um, you know uh, an endless amount of manpower to come against you, you know, and 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 it's like when Pete and I talk about it, we talk about it being, it's like it's a true David and Goliath story. We're up against Goliath here, and it's so it, it is so energy draining. I try not to go to that place in me that is just scared to death that Pete's going to be in jail for the rest of his life for 80 years. That's what he's facing, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so I just couldn't get into the fighting, and so I opted not to be there. So I don't know who said what. To this day, I don't know who said what, and so there's really no reason to apologize to me, because I have no idea who who was saying the things that were being said. I just know that things were said, and that's fine, and until somebody is in my shoes, you know they're never going to understand what I'm going through. They're just never going to. And you know, it's it's um it's pretty eye opening, and it's pretty devastating every single day, every day.
Hey, hey, Deb,
Uh-huh.
this is a Freedom Faction of Factions of Freedom. I have to run, but I wanted to say something in closing because I feel like you need to hear it because of what you and Pete Santilli have done, and we've talked about it throughout this entire episode. Because the need is there, because of these things that are happening, you guys have set off a chain reaction of like Link said, just creating different shows, different platforms, different alternative media news outlets, different needs that need to be taken care of because of how important Pete Santilli was, not only to the truth movement, but just to the alternative media community. Just the fact that he can use his voice. So the fact that you guys, and I'm sorry that these things are happening to you, but it's a testament to your strength and to the courage that you have as well. But look at what it's done. Look at the good that you guys have done. And I'm a byproduct of that good, because I've listened to you guys before. I've listened to Pete before. I've seen some of his videos. I've seen a lot of different people's videos. And it's the fact that need to get the word out there, stories such as your own and Pete's, it needs to get out there. And I really want to appreciate you for doing that, or
Well,
for going through what you've gone through.
thank you so much. I know that I appreciate it, and I know that Pete does too. He asks about everybody all the time, and he wonders what everybody's doing. And when he does his little updates, it's just it's like therapy for him. He loves to do them. He gets excited when he knows he's going to put an update out. And the sad part of it is that a whole lot of it he's kind of behind the times on some things because you know he's not allowed to. They don't have a television. He doesn't have a radio. He doesn't have the internet. He doesn't have any of those things. So a lot of times things will get to him um, a week after it's happened. So when he calls me, I read. He wants to know what the headlines are, so I go to Drudge Report and I read articles to him. Well, what I do is I give him the headline, and if he's interested, he'll say, "Oh, read that one to me." You know. So we do right. We do that. We do that about once a day. But because of everybody's support, and there still are a lot of people supporting us, and I want those people to know that we are so thankful for those people who have stood by us. And because of that support, he's able to call me just about any time that he wants to, and he'll call me sometimes 10 times a day, you know, just to be connected, um, with the world and
Just asking for the news.
yeah, asking for the news and asking, he's really concerned about how I'm doing, you know, and I try to alleviate his concern. I put on a I put on um, a happy face for him. I don't take the stuff to him, all the bad stuff to him, and you know I just don't, because there's nothing he can do about it, and I was warned early on, not to do that to him.
Yeah,
Try
all
to
he has
stay.
to do in there is time to think, and if he has any indications or any thoughts that there's something wrong with you, that's all he's going to dwell on while he's in there. So the last thing he needs, I mean, because he can't, like you said, he can't do anything about it, and that's something that I had to learn too early on, is to keep that happy face, and to even if I'm dying inside, not to put it out there for him to see.
And
Yeah.
also, sorry to interrupt you guys. Also, I think that we can kind of take advantage of the situation in a way, because this is the first really lengthy conversation that Deb has had in a while with all of us, that found ourselves brought together because of them, essentially. And so there are going to be, not only are there over 50 people that are listening to this now, there are going to be far more people that are going to hit this and stream this and listen to it. And I would just like to challenge, if it's the people that normally listen to Dabu and go to environments like that, or any others, even those of you out there that are going to be listening to this and or are, that don't normally agree with Pete Santilli. The point is you all are on the platform, putting your information out there, getting your opinions out there, and using the tools of independent media like Pete was. And so at a minimum, please just share his story and your concern for Pete Santilli being imprisoned because of being a storyteller. And I would also like to say that anybody that can support Pete and Deb via their website, donate, set up a PayPal account, and yes, just set up something that isn't going to be, a heavy duty sacrifice. Set an amount monthly and forget it, and just let it go, and put your money where your mouth is. It's about, this was their vocation. And not only that, these guys provided us with content and entertainment daily. We loved their personalities. We loved to hear them. It was like, family. I mean, and we, wherever you were listening, and you could relate. And we enjoyed the chemistry between both of them. We enjoyed the chemistry between Pete, always talking about what needing to be banned from the chat room and things like that. And he was totally endearing. And so remember that, because we're going to get it back. They're coming back. But in the interim right now, we need to remember that getthetea.com and Ship and Fix, that money's not coming in right now. So we need to support them in with as much as we can, and take care of them, because they took care of us. Don't forget who went to Arizona, and what they did in Arizona for the vets on the ground there. Don't forget about going to Baltimore and supporting speech. And I'm talking to you guys out there on the left side of the spectrum. Don't forget about that. And in the meantime, all 50 plus of you that are streaming this, and the people that are going to be clicking on this and streaming it later on, you have a phone. Pick up your phone and call people like Alex Jones. Get in there. Call Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! Email them. Email George Norrie on Coast to Coast. Believe me, they answer their emails. I've had success. So, anyways, all right, I'll shut up.
See, I told you guys Jeremy was onto something, man.
You're awesome, Jeremy.
Jeremy's onto something.
Right. I want to remind everybody that, Pete, Deb, we were told that the letters have been dropping off, that the men in there are feeling like they're being forgotten. I just want to remind everybody, get those letters out there. Just, let's get their spirits up there. Pete, you heard Deb say that he likes the headlines. Throw him a couple headlines. Tell him what's going on in the world. Keep it upbeat though, and let's not forget. There are women and children out there right now whose fathers and husbands and grandfathers have been taken away from them, and they are now struggling to maintain the life that they built as a family. And this is the government. This is what the government does, is they rip the families apart. They've taken the bread earners away from these women and children in hopes that they'll lose the farms and lose the ranches. And we can't let that happen. We need to step up. Pete was right there on the front lines, and we owe that to him, I think.
Laurie, can I ask a question?
Of course you can, sweetheart.
Hi, Deb. My name is Pat Armstrong, and I've been supporting you and Pete for about 2.5 months now, and the Bundys, trying to donate when I can.
Thank you, sir.
There's been some confusion on why mail has been being returned. Do you have any idea why we're getting mail back and that they're not getting it? Is it something that we're not putting on the envelopes?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know about that. I do know that when they sent everyone to Nevada, there was a lot of confusion, and of course, the jail is not going to forward their mail. And then I know that they were getting mail. Pete got mail while he was in Nevada, and I know the other guys.
Is he back in Oregon now, or?
Pete is going to be transported back to Oregon any moment.
Okay.
The deadline is up tomorrow, the 19th. So we are assuming that they will take him back to Oregon, in the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion as to where to send the letters and everything.
You'll be able
What
to send him there. He'll have the same. He'll have exactly the same address, the same inmate number. So, um,
I'm going to
yeah.
put that in the description box underneath the video when we're done here. And also, Jeremy, if you can give me the links to the PayPal, to, I just want to make sure that everything's underneath there. Because, I mean, we owe this, like I said, we owe this to Pete. We owe this to, we sincerely owe this to Pete. He was there, he stepped up, he has done his part, and now he's in a position that any one of us could be in at any moment. Let's not forget that.
That is so true because, I mean, we talk about it a lot. I think about all those episodes and all of those times that, we talked about this and talked about, how this could happen. And I got to tell you, I never dreaming in a million years that it really would happen. We've had countless people on our show that this has happened to. They've been SWAT teamed in the middle of the night, or they've been raided. And we had one woman from Colorado where they actually sent a SWAT team to give her an eviction. I mean, some of the things that we've covered over the last 5 years, people being SWAT teamed for growing tomato plants, and people being SWAT teamed for, for not for digging a well, or something that the government didn't like. And,
gathering spring water, or gathering rainwater.
Right, gathering rainwater in Colorado.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we talk about these things, and we have talked about, wow, this, I don't know how many times we've said that this could happen to any of us. And to really have it happen is just, it's just mind numbing. I can't even, it's just amazing. It really is. And the power that we're up against is, I mean, some days I think, there's no way that we're ever going to beat this. The court is corrupt, in my opinion. The judges have already got a preconceived notion that these guys are all guilty. They treat them like they're guilty, even though they give long speeches about, them being innocent until proven guilty. There's absolutely nothing in the way that they act, that and the things that they say, that 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 deems these guys as being innocent.
Right. You don't put innocent people behind bars without bond. You don't put them in solitary confinement. You don't do those things to innocent people.
No, you don't. And I've had opportunity, because of our support and our listenership, to be in the courtroom. There's a big hearing coming up on Monday, on the 23rd. It's a big one, and it's in Oregon, and I'm not going to be able to be there because I'm in Ohio right now. And I wish I could be there, but I mean, I have things to take care of here. But these guys are facing something that most of us, God forbid, will ever have to face in our lifetime. But just everybody needs to really take a good look at this, and especially if you are being active, and you consider yourself an activist, even if it's on the internet. Remember, they spent 2 years building their case based mostly on what was being said on YouTube and on Facebook.
Right. They use social media to build a case against Pete and everybody else.
Yes.
And do not take it for granted, because anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. This has been proven with Pete, and we're seeing it over and over again. I read I don't even know how many pages it was when it first came down, and it showed the posts. It showed us exactly the videos. It showed the posts, the Facebook posts. I mean, it was just appalling as to what they were using. Um, it's almost like it was our invasion of. I mean, I understand Facebook is public, but it still feels like an invasion of privacy.
It is, because a private message means exactly that. They give you this false sense of security that because you are using your private messaging, that it's private. But Facebook needs to start. When you log onto your Facebook, there needs to be the Miranda right needs to be read to you. You need to be able to see that whatever you say can and will be used against you in a court of law on Facebook. And this is very much, they said it in court. One of the attorneys said this is a Facebook, YouTube trial. Facebook and YouTube are on trial here, and the things that are said on there, and privacy, um, for all the world to see. It was so easy for the government to get a warrant, and for 2 years they've been building their case based on what's been said in the background.
They don't even need a warrant. If your Facebook page is public, they just go on and they monitor you, freely without even your knowledge.
Well, yeah, but what I'm talking about is they got warrants to go in and monitor everybody's private messages on Facebook, your private chats, things that you don't think that anybody can see. Those never go away. Facebook's, we've learned, stores those things, and the same with our phones. Anything that you've texted, anything that even your conversations. If they believe that you are any way at all affiliated with what happened in Nevada, what happened in Oregon, um, under the Patriot Act, they will put you on a terror watch list like they have done me, and everything that you say will be recorded, and all of your text will be, you know, um, monitored and saved, and they start building a file on you. And if they think that and listen, you could be just totally innocent, just talking politics and expressing your opinion, and they
Right.
can twist it so that it sounds like you're a complete militant. When in these prosecutors use those words liberally, um, militant, uh, government combatant, anti-government. I have heard everything that the on those lists, those lists that we've been talking about for years, people who talk about certain things, or could be on the terror watch list. I'm here to tell you it's the truth.
That's scary, Deb.
It is scary. It's
That's
really scary. And
it's eye-opening too, because I mean, I'm as you're talking, I'm sitting here thinking back of all the conversations I've had with people, all the posts I've put up. Like I said, I was involved at Bunkerville. I mean, and I've told people vocally, every time one of the indictments comes down, I have people messaging me all the time, going, there's indictments coming down, and I hold my breath. I do. I hold my breath.
hmm
Um, you know, this
yeah,
is
because
a
you have in Oregon, in Oregon, I've been told, and there's a lot of people talking about this, who are close to it. You know, they don't believe there's going to be any more indictments come down. Now,